let me just. So, what I like to say is that social media. A good thing about social media, there's a lot of, everything can be good or bad. It has good things and bad things.
The internet's good and bad.
But the social media, back in the days, if Jim Morrison, or even more talk about Jimi Hendrix, the sensationalism of the business was beyond. No human being. We all eat and shit and whatever. Sorry if I'm, and I know that Hendrix was really struggling with the sensationalism that built up for fans and expectations.
Right.
And
like you say, you burn one guitar, they expect it every show. It's like the Who. They smash the drums up. They do it every time.
So yes. So the point is that if you had social media back then, and you had the little bit, you don't have to be brilliant, but a fan base, and you build your fan base. Like say there's Patreon today, and I use Patreon. I'm starting to. But if you have the tools to literally interact with your fans daily, or management company or anything, to represent you, then you have the real stories in the moment, in any moment where the artist is thinking and feeling. That could have saved Jimi Hendrix if he had it back then, because what people think about Jimi Hendrix and what he's into musically can be such a big difference, what he's grown and want to do. And yet every time he comes to a show, he's afraid to get booed if he doesn't do the expected thing, to burn a guitar.
Right.
I would say Bob Dylan was one of the few that didn't have thin skin with the sensationalism of what the expectation were, because he was put in the places like Joan Baez and people. Folk singer. Well, yeah, but it's acoustic guitar. It's not just the songs. There's a whole attitude about what's organic you may call today now, what they would consider real and natural then, or not plastic or whatever. Yeah. And electric guitar was not sort of with that culture as being. It was almost a conflict in the way they think, So he wanted to play with electric guitars, as Bob Dylan, and he knew he was going to get booed. The band was scared, but he said, "Fuck it," and he went out and did what he wanted to do as an artist, and stood for that.
He was true to himself.
He was true to himself, and not allowing the sensationalism to overpower what he feels in heart and soul. So that's what I'm talking about, is that if you had social media, then you have tools that you can reel in all your fans, and fans can see daily or however closely they follow, and see what the artist is thinking. So the expectations are not overwhelming beyond more than what the guy wants to play in a moment. So the industry's come a long ways like that, I think, potentially. But when you talk about concerts back then, it was a crazy time. Even when you had a huge concert that was a sports arena, it wasn't even designed for music.
No.
But and
the public address systems weren't designed for arenas.
Well, the acoustics in a sports arena, you want for every person to sound like 10 people, because it's cheers and that for whatever team they're rooting for, whatever. Yeah. But acoustics for music, it's not soothing. But they would have a packed thing of 30,000 people, and didn't think about, with these big speakers they wouldn't think about putting barriers, let's say, to keep the people away, So, I mean, you would have somebody literally climb into the fucking big speakers because it sounded so good to them, and then they'd be deaf, and then they sue you, right?
Yeah.
Or
climb on the speakers and jump off it and get hurt.
Yeah, but what I want to say is that you had people, no barriers. So I would literally, at one time I don't talk in the mic. I was always shy to talk in the mic. But this one time, and it's almost like the people knew that this was urgent when I spoke, because the promoters were up there, step 2 feet back or 2 steps back, whatever. There was kids squeezed against the mob. The crowd is going against the stage, and so the people are riding up the stage, so they're gonna die. I mean, it was like it's just like
pressed against a wall.
It's like a stampede. So I see this and I panicked and I jumped on the mic and after everybody else, and I said, step back, and somehow the energy stayed back. I mean, I saw a kid. He was turning blue. I was fucking frightened. So the industry, in a lot of ways, have learned, to make it more homogenized and perfected, including safety, liabilities, and everything. So if you asked how it was back then, it was a wild card. Even war, when we had huge fans in all over the world, third world countries, we were huge. But we learned real quick after a bad experience in Mexico. We learned that we have fans, but if you go there then, and they didn't have the industry down, you would have some promoter get you there, and then next thing you know, there's no sound system, or you don't get paid, or it was a very interesting time, good or bad. Things have really gotten polished, and things are really much more professional today.
Yeah,
so that's really what I want to say.
A bunch of today, it's a lot of money involved. It's run almost like a military operation. I tell people, when that opening act goes on, or when the headliner goes on, you can almost set your watch to it. They'll go on at 8 o'clock on the dot.
It's a business like anything else.
You don't go on a half hour late. It doesn't work.
No. It didn't work then either. But nobody, it wasn't so. It wasn't perfected, and people were too loose in a lot of ways. It was good or bad, Yeah.
I remember some promoters they say, well, you're off stage at 8:30. So you can go on whenever you want, but the power goes off at 8:30.
Well, that's the union.
You want to shut your set, that's up to you. But that's
not. That's the union saying that. They had nothing to do with the music and the promoter. The promoter would never say that. The promoter would say, "I need a good show," because listen.
Well, you heard these stories of like Sly Stone and Marvin Gaye or whatever. The drugs got involved, and sometimes they wouldn't show up at the show, and there'd be a riot. People rip up the seats. Did you see some of that where all of a sudden the drugs started to take hold?
Well, yeah, of course I've seen a lot of that, and I still see it today with some people. I mean, do you know why drugs are basically in different countries they have laws also with alcohol, when curfew for alcohol, and why drugs they make them illegal? Do you understand why? Do you know why?
Tell us.
Well, my opinion is that commerce industry depends on people showing up at factories, right? And if they have hangovers or don't make it, then the country dies too, because the country depends on industry.
Yeah, productivity.
The country depends on the factories and the industries to produce the products. And if everybody's too messed up to do a good job or not even showing up, the country dies, right?
Yeah.
So it's not about looking after people's welfare and health. I don't think commerce cares about that. They care about the production and industry being healthy and moving forward for what their purpose is. So people must be in good shape, right?
Yeah.
Based on that, so there's a place where you can enjoy it, and there's a place where you don't work.